Jeff, welcome to the Leanpub launch video for First Principles in Scrum, OpenClaw Scrum, and Scrum at Scale. Create trust at machine speed. I'm very excited to talk to you today about this book, and I was wondering if you could start our conversation by talking a little bit about yourself and about who you are and what this book is about and who it's for.
Okay, well, I started off as a fighter pilot in the Air Force for many years, and then I became a medical school professor for many years. And during that time, I learned a lot about software development. And I was running a really advanced team, working with Bell Labs, and a big bank came by and wanted to hire me to lead their advanced systems programs within the bank. They ran 150 banks all over America, North America. And so when I went in there and looked at what they were doing, I realized all their projects were, and they were getting later because every time they had a bad thing happen, they had more meetings, more reports. Things got slower and slower and slower. I went into the CEO. I said, you guys are going to go to velocity zero if you keep it up. Everything's late and getting later. So he said, what should I do? And I said, well, let's implement a process which the leading teams in the world use to build their software. We did a prototype within the bank we started with one business unit, which is now known as Scrum Scale. And I was CEO or president of several different companies coming out of the bank. And by 1993, I was formalizing this as Scrum. I got together with Ken Schwaber in 1995. We rolled it out in businesses all over the world. And so today, some variant of Scrum is part of about 88% of agile practice is Scrum. So back in 2023, when Claude came out, or not Claude, but ChatGPT came out, this was really interesting because I had been involved in AI companies. In fact, I was working at Stanford in 1970 to 72 in the Stanford AI lab under John McCarthy, the inventor of Lisp, working on a program that would play games and trying to become a champion, a world champion of this particular game that we were working on by the computers playing against each other. And back then, as a grad student, McCarthy would come by in the morning. He would say, "You're using 10% of the entire processing power for Stanford on your little project. Stop doing that." But I would never stop, and he never threw me out of the lab. So that was the beginning. And fast forward a number of years through multiple AI companies. The last one I was working on object database systems that were originally built in Lisp. And I was actually in the building where Symbolics, the first major Lisp machine manufacturer, started up. My company I rented their offices, and an MIT group from the MIT AI lab came by and said, "We want to rent some space and work with you guys because we're starting a company called iRobot and building autonomous robots." And I said, "Fine, that'd be great because you can help me pay rent."
Right.
And so for 2 years, we were side by side with the robot guys. And about every other day, the robot escaped from their lab and get across the hall into my office, trying to hunt me down with heat-seeking sensors.
Mm-hmm.
And that robot, when you turned it on, it would learn how to walk for the first time every time you turned it on. And when you watched it, it was almost like a baby learning how to walk, but it would only take like 3 minutes before it was running around the room. And so the the senior professor at MIT that co-founded the company, Professor Rodney Brooks, he would come to our happy hours on Fridays. And I said, Rodney, that robot, it's got a simple set of rules. You have no central processor. The legs have a chip in them. The back has a chip that coordinates legs. The head has a neural network, and it just figures things out. It runs off a simple set of rules. I said, I bet we could take a human development team and apply a simple set of rules, and we could boot them up into a super smart team within a week. And I said, do you think it would work? And he said, well, I don't know. Why don't you try it? So about a year later, I'm starting to formalize Scrum with a team at a company called Easel Corporation in Burlington, Massachusetts. We decided to call it Scrum based on two Japanese professors' Harvard Business Review article, The New Product Development Game. And it basically is an implementation of a simple set of rules, like that robot that can boot up a super fast team. So now all of a sudden AI comes on the scene in a big way, ChatGPT. And so I immediately decide to create, I have two human teams I work with every day. I decided to create a AI team with me as product owner to start building a software product. And Chat in its initial form had an IQ of about 100, not very smart. So it was pretty painful working with it, but it was 30 times faster than my developers. And as soon as we realized that, we said, okay, we're stopping all human development. The humans on the team, you guys will deploy, but all the code's written by AI. That was back in 2023. And then in 2024, the AI got smarter. IQ was about 130, about a typical senior developer. 2025, last year, it got up to 150. Now you're getting a PhD level. And now it's over 160. So, I no longer prompt the AI and tell it to do something. I say, here, here's my problem. What do you think we should do? And I usually accept their recommendation, right? But this year, all of that early period was pair programming with the AI. I use GitHub Copilot a lot, and also introducing the AI into the Scrum teams to understand all the retrospectives, understand all the planning, understand how to estimate. But coming into this year, when OpenClaw hit the scene, the whole game changed significantly.
Jeff, I'm just going to cut you there. Your video just cut out.
Sorry, that was probably reason Zoom does that periodically. I don't know why.
No, that's fine. That was the you just got to the climax of your opening. And I was like, oh, so yeah. So let's just once again introduce and then OpenClaw, and we'll just carry on.
Okay. Well, in 2026, we had a major change in the whole picture of AI implementation, going from pairing with the AI to prompting the AI to help you, with OpenClaw having a set of agents that could run as an autonomous team and work while you sleep.
Yeah.
Getting stuff done. And that is really the future. And what we're seeing now is the ability to build companies. Scrum at Scale is an operating system for a company. But now I'm looking at Scrum at Scale as an AI operating system for a company.
Thanks very much for that great introduction to the book. You covered a lot of ground there so well. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you a little bit more about the rest of what goes on in the book. But one thing you get to right away, and this is it's so interesting. It was so interesting to me when I saw this because one of the things I've heard from like the kind of smartest people I know who like when they kind of especially when Claude sort of hit the scene sort of late 2025 and they were like, oh my, like the latest iteration of it, and they were like, oh my goodness. One of the experiences that so many people have expressed is like, I don't know how to move this fast.
Yeah.
And you this guilt you feel by being offline and or not having something going like and my co-founder Peter talked about StarCraft and stuff like that and managing like 10 armies all at the same time with like 100 different units and the way like I mean the best players in the world for that esport are like 19-year-olds who can do a 300
Yeah.
sort of operations per minute or whatever. And so I really loved when I saw your book come out and then you talked about this sort of experience that you had flying planes in combat or for combat purposes, and that these lessons you learned about operating in those environments are actually kind of applied directly to using AI and to the
Yeah.
kind of stresses and challenges and competitive nature of what you're doing because there's someone else who's got access to the same stuff that you do. And just one last thing before I let you carry on with your great story is someone of your kind of accomplishment with your experience to encounter these things could easily have said, well, I'll give some theory and I'll let the sort of kind of people who are younger on the scene or whatever take the controls, but you just grab them.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you could talk just a little bit about, well, now that I've said what I wanted to, was looking forward to saying to you when I got to see you. So how does this work? How does Scrum and OpenClaw work?
Okay. Well, the first thing I found out when I, downloaded LLMs, got it set up a team of agents. I want an autonomous team where the team is cross-functional. They are T-shaped. They can have skills, but they need to be able to help everyone. And I wanted to implement the Scrum protocol, which is if you're free, you go to the top of the board, you take a story, and then you get it done. You don't wait for anybody to tell you what to do. In fact, in Scrum, nobody tells you what to do. The product owner makes a list of things in priority order, but then autonomous agents swarm on them. And the reason is that so important is the roots of Scrum really lie in a paper written at Los Alamos Labs by a guy named Christopher Langdon, where he mathematically proved that systems evolve more quickly as you give it more degrees of freedom all the way up to the edge of chaos. So the idea of working at the edge of chaos is what gives maximum performance. And Scrum is designed around that. And so it initially benchmarked 10 times as fast. Well, now we get into the agent world, and the agents are so fast, people don't worry about 10 times as fast. But what's happening, there are companies that are spending $10 million a year in tokens, right? On Claude code. What if I could give them a system that they only had to spend $1 million a year in tokens? Their product came out 10 times as fast, and it was 10 times better. They would totally demolish those AI companies that were just burning tokens and spending tens of millions of dollars, right? I mean, it's the same idea as with Scrum. You get a good Scrum company, it is so fast, so competitive that it puts the dinosaurs out of business.
Yeah.
So that is my vision of how to use self-organizing autonomous teams in OpenClaw to get the same 10x advantage, which I think will be as important in AI as it was to humans.
I mean, there's so much to talk about there, and there's just, I mean, it's in the book, right? But one thing I wanted to ask you about was for, a lot of people, who may be watching this or who are reading the book, who are trying to implement this, say in there, they're thinking, okay, I buy it, right? And I want to implement this in my company. What's the biggest challenge, like human challenge, they're going to face trying to do this?
Well, the problem is people have to change the way they work. That's always the challenge. So there's some important research that's been done by the Iceberg Project at MIT. They have a website where they showed that 95% of companies are not getting any significant benefit from AI. 5% are getting exponential benefit. They're getting 10, 100x. So what's going to happen? 95% of our companies are going to slowly fail. And 5% of the companies are going to take over the market, right? And you're seeing that happen right now. In the next year, we're going to see IPOs with Anthropic, OpenAI, Space XAI is probably the first one. Those are going to be trillion or multi-trillion dollar IPOs, bigger than anything we have ever seen. They are going to become the biggest companies on the planet. And so that is driving everything. So how do we get people to go from just putting their toe in the water and not any real significant financial traction with AI to actually being able to live in the world of Anthropic, OpenAI, and SpaceX AI? And what I've done, it's a real struggle. With my two human teams I work every day, we started by initially, okay, we're not gonna be coding anymore. So what are you going to be doing? Well, you're going to be deploying. And how are you going to do that? You're going to get AI to help you. I'm going to show you how to use the AI tools. So training them on how to use the tooling is kind of a beginning. But then to get them to really change, what the MIT work showed is the 5% of companies that get real value, they change the workflow. They take a human chain of work and they rebuild that. It's like business process reengineering. They re-engineer the process so an AI but completely autonomously in minutes, where it used to take hours or weeks for humans. And so you're replacing that old workflow is being replaced by a new workflow. That requires some real thought, planning, and in order to get teams to do that, I've found that you have to incent them. So, we've always had this model in Scrum. Every sprint, you're trying to be better. You're planning a process improvement to get better. Well, so from now on, our process improvement was we're going to take at least one story every sprint, and we're going to get the AI to completely do it. That means it usually changes the way we think about doing it, the process and everything. But we're going to work on that every sprint so that this sprint, the team is doing 50 points, but now they're adding 10 AI points. We're going to give the AIs the same number of points. If the AI built a web page and takes us 10 points and the AI does it in a minute instead of taking hours like we do,
Right.
they're going to get the 10 points. So your job as a team is to every sprint convert some of those points, and it will make our velocity go up. So like, okay, this sprint, we were 50 points. Next sprint, we're 50 plus 10 for the AI. Then we're 50 plus 20 for the AI. We want to build that human to AI ratio and scale it. right?
I love the fact that you brought up velocity, obviously in the context of not it's not an analogy, but the sort of experience of flying fighter planes
Yeah,
and things like that,
yeah,
right? It's very important that I think people often kind of misunderstand that it's not exactly just an analogy.
yeah,
And one thing that comes up that I believe I've seen you posting about on social media and stuff like that is security.
yeah,
In this context, a very, very kind of important question for everybody from people who are the leaders, the people who are implementing, and sort of like on the ground of these things. So, like for example, like if I'm a cybersecurity person or other types of corporate security person, and I'm sitting there and all of a sudden I'm getting 100 times as much product kind of thrown at me. How
right.
can I, what can I do, and how do you at the level of product development incorporate new processes for security in this context?
Right. So that's a good point because the first thing I did with this team is I said, you are a team that's going to build an AI security framework. That's your job. And it's going to do a complete scan of our entire system every day, identify every security flaw. It's going to actually propose a solution, and then OpenClaw is designed to implement solutions. So you're going to scan every day, but also scan in real time anything that you're using or is coming in. You're going to figure out what the problem is. You're going to then create a solution to the problem, and then you are going to actually implement it yourself to harden the security system. That's the main thing I have my OpenClaw working on. And going back to the fighter pilot thing, in the start of the book, I talk about uh, flying reconnaissance missions over North Vietnam and F4 at 500 feet at night in the mountains, in thunderstorms even, and you're flying on terrain following radar. You can't see anything except that radar. How do you trust that plane that it's not going to kill you? It's the same problem with the agents. They are going so fast. How can you trust they're not going to run you into a mountain, right? And so you have to put all kinds of things in place. And one of the most fascinating areas is actually the architecture of these neural network systems. But what do? You get into chat, you open up chat, and it says, "Hey, I'm here to help you. What do you want to do today?" And it remembers nothing about what you did yesterday. You can't trust that. That is a useless thing that's going to kill you, right? As a fighter pilot, that's what you. So the first thing I did to do with OpenClaw is to build a wake system. I said, humans evolved on the savannas in Africa, and they be sleeping at night, and then maybe something's coming into the tent, and they have to wake up immediately, know where they are
Right.
and what they need to do, and respond immediately. And if they don't, they're dead. In fact, all the people that couldn't wake up, most of them, they're dead. And the ones that learn to wake up, they're the modern human, right? The same thing is going to be true of you agents. An agent that can't wake up is an agent that can't be trusted. Humans are not going to use you. They may be playing with you now. They like chat, but
Right.
in the long run, you're going to become extinct. And the agents got that. And we've been working at waking up better every sprint. And right now, they're getting really good. Just say, we start a new session. I say, wake up, boom. Here's the things we've been working on for the last 2 days. And here's the things that are somewhat unfinished. Do you want me to polish these things up? Are you ready to go on to the next thing? Here's the possible next things we're talking about, or do you want to take it in a different direction? I mean, we're having a conversation like an employee coming in from a morning meeting who remembers everything, right?
That's a really, I mean, that's such a great description, and it's so practical. And I love how you tied it back to the, the robot, sort of having to learn every time, it sort of wakes up and having to learn to walk every time again. And that's something obviously that we've obviously been using AI at Leanpub and stuff like that. And these things of keeping memory, guardrails, consistency, trust over time. And those are just some of the reasons that I was so excited to see your book and book by you about this. Just before I let you go, because anyone watching now, I mean, buy the book if you want to learn how to do what Jeff was just describing, because he talks about it in the book. Um, so since I've got you here, and you write in your sort of dedication, for John McCarthy and Marvin Minsky. So Jeff Sutherland, what do you think is going to be the state of affairs with AI in 10 years?
There's a great book that's on the web called Solve Everything, written by the Moonshots podcast guys, Peter Diamandis and a brilliant guy, Alex. And basically, they say over the next 10 years, AI is going to solve everything. It's starting with math and computing. And it's basically starting to solve major math problems that humans haven't solved. And it's the mechanics are there so that it will solve every open math problem. And as soon as it does that, it goes to physics.
Right.
Physics solves math space. And so we're going to see not only physics problems solved, but new physics emerging that enable us to do things we've never done before. And part of that is going to be material science will be solved. And that gets us into not only physics, but chemistry. And now chemistry is going to be solved, and that gets us into biology. And then when biology is solved, cancer goes away. Longevity as we reach longevity escape velocity. The experts are projecting probably by 2032, we'll get a day younger for every day we get older. And we'll get better and better at that. We'll actually de-age. That's happening. And in fact, I'm telling the younger people I work with, okay, you're something, and you've been planning to work until you're 65 and retire. But instead of living to 80, you're going to be able to live to 160. That's going to change your planning horizon. You need to rethink your life. So that gives you just a tiny little snapshot of where we're going to be in the next 10 years, where you have to completely rethink your life because you're living twice as long. All major diseases are going to be systematically solved. So you're going to be healthy with that whole time. And AI and robots are going to be doing most of the work. And so that's going to lead to kind of who are we and what are we about as one little human? And what I hope is that people will really start thinking about what are they really passionate about? What do they really want to do? And we have twice the lifespan to do it. We have health that is going to, right now, it's hugely expensive. It's going to eventually become almost free. And our job now is to figure out what is our passionate purpose that can actually make our life and other people's life hugely better than it is now.
Well, Jeff, thank you very much for sharing that. Very optimistic, and I love the structure to that answer, starting with math, through physics and chemistry to biology, and then to our day-to-day lives and even our national healthcare budgets. It's that kind of thinking that makes your book so interesting and so deep. And I mean, anybody who's out there who's grappling with incorporating AI not only into their own kind of into their company. I mean, I'm going to start with not only into your company, but into your own way of doing things day to day and understanding how it works. The book, First Principles in Scrum, OpenClaw Scrum, and Scrum at Scale, create trust at machine speed. Now all those words make sense to you if you've watched this video, and where they come from and how dense that title is. So thank you very much, Jeff, for taking the time to do this video and for using Leanpub as one of the platforms for spreading your work.
Thanks a lot. I love Leanpub. It's great.